Next up, we have Nina Parks and Dania Cabello. Did I say that right? Kinda? Okay, you can fix me. Nina Parks is the founder of Gift of Doja, and Madam Chair, San Francisco Cannabis Oversight Committee. Nina is a San Francisco native. She's a fierce advocate for human rights and the right for people to expand and grow and to create a diverse world. She's lived many lives as a student of criminal justice, as a martial arts instructor, an artist, a documentary photographer, an after-school educator, a case manager, community policing organizer. And in 2015, after her brother was arrested for cannabis sales in New York, she launched a delivery service while advocating for delivery services to exist in California and the first wave of equity programs in California. She co-founded the Supernova Women Group with Amber Center, Andrea Unsworth, who we just heard from earlier, and Sunshine Lencho, and she sat on the California Growers Association board. She then went off to co-found the original equity group with Ramon Garcia, who's here today as well. We'll hear from him a little bit later, as well as Ed Brown, that is now establishing the equity trade certification. She's a cannabis entrepreneur, finally launching her own brand, Gift of Doja, which and I have been enjoying all day. This flower is amazing. Velvet Punch, so yummy. Thank you, Nina. Beautiful product. And she's also serving as Madam Chair of the Cannabis Oversight Committee of San Francisco. What a title. Awesome. Welcome, Nina. And we're so pleased to welcome Dania, who is the founder of Ojo de la Sol. She's native to Oakland, California, and is a medicine maker of some beautiful cannabis topicals. As a former professional soccer player and liberatory pedagogue, she combines critical inquiry and self-reflection to explore collective healing to sustain the movement. Her practice is rooted in Indigenous wellness and community care. All of her products are made with love and sustainably sourced ingredients, supporting small businesses from packaging to production. And I know we're a little bit late getting started. The next thing we have after this is small group networking. So definitely take a full 30 minutes and then we'll do little breakout groups afterwards. So Nina, why don't I hand it over to you? You can ask the first question for Dania. This will be a one-on-one combo.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aria. And I'm so glad to see that you're enjoying that Sanctuary Farms Velvet Punch, grown with a lot of love. Happy to be here with Dania. A big reason why I'm super happy to be here with Dania too is because Dania and I knew each other from the community prior to even this cannabis work. So it's really beautiful to be on this evolution and this journey together, in just finding where we fit into this into this greater picture. So before we get started, I wanted to do some land acknowledgements. Usually when we are at Meadowlands, I have everybody touch the ground and give thanks and in recognition to, usually in Camp Navarro, we're on Pomo territory, but today I am coming from Ohlone territory, which would be San Francisco, California. So I would like to acknowledge the fact that myself, as a half Filipino, half Jewish human being that was born and raised as a San Francisco native, is a settler in this space, and it is not necessarily where my family is from. So that being the case, understanding that I come here as a person on borrowed space and want to be a good steward to where I can bring my energy. And I know that we have Dania hailing from Southern California right now. She went on a beautiful road trip. So can you let us know what land is giving you support and energy today?
Absolutely. Thank you all. I feel so blessed to be here sharing space. I'm on Chumash land right now, outside of or within Santa Barbara. And I thought, I've never been to Meadowlands before, so I wanted to kind of honor my first participation being on the land and outdoors by some trees. And I didn't really take into factor that this was the crows' happy hour time. So you might hear our friends, the birds above me today.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for being outside too. Thank you for being outside and bringing the outside inside for all of us today. Greatly appreciated. Sorry, I know this next part's yours.
Oh, totally. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to also acknowledge, just as a part of a gratitude before beginning, there's always something really interesting about being a featured speaker or taking up space in any place or online. And I just wanted to offer my gratitude for being somebody who's being put in a position of power in this moment. And to also recognize that people like Maya, people like Mama Sue, people like Nina Parks, Ramon Garcia, Earl McGee, these are all people that have been in attendance and are here who've been central in helping me create space at a table like this. So it's really special to be in a position of power, being supported and elevated by people who really support my business and our collective well-being. So I see you all out there. And thank you for this opportunity to share today.
Oh man, I feel like mad emotional for some reason. I think, especially because this year has given us so much time to be inside of our own heads, that being able to see so many faces, although it is digital, is so warming to me, especially so many unfamiliar faces. And I think it speaks to the connectedness of this plant and how it has brought us a lot, like all of us together, and has has like this energetic thread, right? It is the sacredness, right? So by definition, right, if we just like distill it down to the etymology of the word sacred, it is to make holy, or to have a connectedness with a higher power. Or to be the connection between the higher power. So as we work through our spreadsheets, and as we work through figuring out how to take up market share and all these other things that all of a sudden we've been hurtled into after the passage of Prop 64, even though, we were running businesses, it still wasn't the same, because it allowed us this collective conversation of passing and sharing medicine with each other, which allowed for the sacred conversation to have a space as we continue conversation in regards to growing as a business, as an industry. It becomes more sacred, even, to be able to hold that history of this plant, of being a connector to a higher power, or to that has called us. Like, we even heard Maya and Mama Sue talk about it before, but they felt like they were called to the space, that the plant chose them as a steward of itself, to help to connect people. And I feel that way too, because I was born on 420. So I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing with my life except for this. It was really pretty affirming once it moved from Hitler's birthday into the weed day. I was like, cool, I'll take that. We're running with that for the rest of my life. It is now the weed day. I'm going to be the weed lady. So also very grateful again for that, for, the humor that this plant also allows us to bring into the space too. For you, I kind of let my my connectedness to this plant be known already, but for you, Dania, how did you get connected to this plant, and how do you feel yourself a steward of it?
Okay, well, I got into this plant from a time of having been a super militarized, trained professional athlete. And if any of you have physically trained anything in kind of the traditional realm of sports or play, there's a lot of harm that's done and inflicted on and with the body. And in my mid-20s, when I ended my first professional career in Brazil with Santos FC, I started to have problems where I could no longer even run. And this was like at the height of my career. Was pretty physically able in my 20s, and I was no longer able to wear soccer cleats or run. In combination, at the same time, there was also kind of a coming of age honoring of my own family's history as Mapuche, indigenous Chileans who were political exiles who arrived to Oakland, California in 1976, escaping military persecution. And I think a lot of folks that can relate with kind of the immigrant experience and kind of the lived trauma of our family, our ancestors, there's a lot of stuff to unpack. And so as a soccer player, as a futbolista, and as somebody who was looking to kind of unpack my own trauma, indigenizing my wellness became kind of a central focus of my family and myself. And part of that being plant medicine. So, my father used to joke, like, only the gringas eat vitamins, as a joke to like, we eat well, therefore you don't need vitamins. You drink your water, therefore you shouldn't drink sugary Gatorades and things like that. And kind of under that philosophy of how can I learn to reclaim my own health, whether it be physical or the mental imbalances I was having, the road kept leading me back to cannabis. And it first started with juicing fresh fan leaves to make, the cannabis juices that within 3 weeks helped me get off of antidepressants that were causing me all sorts of harm and nausea, and it was a nightmare. And that moment, about a month in, when I learned that it was like the equivalent of my Popeyes spinach juice, I saw what it was able to do on that level. I thought, okay, I promise I will be a devoted student. What else is there? And that's when I started exploring with my family. We started making popsicles. We started making brownies and doggy treats for the dog with arthritis. And then we started making topicals. And the topicals was kind of this happy medium where my 70-year-old father with a lifetime of arthritis, myself as a physical athlete, we were both finding incredible benefits from the topicals, that it started spreading a little bit like wildfire amongst the Diaz community of like, hey, your dad told me that you have this pomada. Like, hey, your dad was telling me. And I started following it. And, when you're in this industry, at some point you have to make a decision. Am I going to stay in the traditional market, or am I going to try to, if I keep being public with this, am I going to try to go the regulated route? And I remember my first day when I was accepted into what was formerly known as Harvest Dispensary, and I'm having my first market with people, and somebody said, so what drew you into the cannabis industry? And I remember thinking, I never dreamt of this. I never really desired to be in this industry. I'm loyal to this plant. And I guess because the rules of the man, I either have to be here or I can't be too public. And so there was a lot of having to work out my own inner politics of like, what does this mean to be in the regulated industry for such a sacred plant that grows from the earth, that's more difficult to access than a gun on the street of Oakland? And so 3 years after regulations, I thought it was going to take 6 months, by the way. 3 years later, and I recently relaunched, thanks to the support of Nina Parks and Ramon Garcia that are sitting right here, with Ojo de la Sol topicals. Yeah, that's a piece of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, and also such a small piece of the journey, because I've been there at the table with you for a few, for a few years now. So I know how hard it is to like be able to distill it, but like the way that you treat your medicine and treat the plant as such definitely reflects, because I see Ramon in the chat being like, the bath salts are transformational. And I have to say, like, every man that I know that works at the distro uses your bath salt, because it transcends, it transcends gender, and that's another thing about sacredness, right? That it does not have gender. It does not have any defined identity. It just is, right? And I think that's something that's very beautiful about the way that you are bringing your brand to the table, is that it's very non-gendered. Like, it's not binary in any way, it's very inclusive. And that's the thing that we have to remember with the plant. Even though it is a female plant, right, we still count on the male counterpart in order to be able to pollinate and to create its like to be able to create new strains and all these other things. And like in studying the plant itself, I think like myself personally was able to come to some like a groundedness and a philosophy about life in general, you know, like the seed, you know, like it starts at a seed itself, it gets buried, it has to break through dirt, you know, it has to stretch and like survive the environment, right? It has to become strong. It stretches like it's being blasted with light, and it stretches and it stretches and it grows. And then it's like shot into darkness, right? And in that darkness, right, which is a very, I guess like a metaphor for some of our own experience, right? That's where we start to form our potency. That's where our magic comes from. That's where like our mind altering, our you know, like our impact, you know, starts to like ferment itself almost, you know. And if it hadn't been, yes, please jump in. It's a conversation.
Okay, when you said ferment, brought me to this idea of germinate, and I kind of want to bring this back to kind of the industry and to you, Nina, which is, I mean, I know many people here are big fans of you and also aware of what Supernova Women have done and continue to do. And it is very much kind of this, there's a germination, there's a spreading of seeds happening. And I actually received my first little pamphlet of like, how do you get into the industry? ABC 1, 2, 3. What do you need? Regulations at the first Supernova event that was done in Oakland, California at Soul Space. That seed, nobody charged me any money to be at that. Nobody was making any money by sharing all of the decades worth of work and research that both you and Center had been doing. There was no cost associated with sharing that information. That pamphlet is what allowed me to piece together my A, my B, my C, which really was really, it was like, if you have an attorney, don't rip off all the other fluff that people were talking about. They can really help you kind of create your business. And when I'm thinking about, you know, we talk about the sacredness of medicine, and I really wanted to make this like center it back, especially for folks who are like more business savvy minded, kind of linking the way in which I believe that this plant can help re-guide us towards healing this industry, which needs some healing. And what I mean by that is, and this is coming from somebody who is a lifelong student, and I'm at every step of the way learning what it means to be the CEO and be the face of the something and be with all these rules, is we're in a time of a global crisis. We are in pandemics on top of pandemics on top of pandemics, whether it be a civil rights movement, whether it be the coronavirus, whether it be children in detention centers, police violence, and the criminalization of cannabis, just to name some of the pandemics, right? And yes, Ramon, our world needs healing. One of the things that, you know, as we take this shift away from kind of capital America, or actually as we shift towards a kind of a collective consciousness of criticizing and critiquing big business, right? We're quick to critique Amazon. We are quick to critique Nike. We are quick to critique these large companies. Yet we're all, and myself, I'm a part of an industry where the structure itself was very much built on the same framework that we are now realizing and have been realizing doesn't work. It's not sustainable. It's harmful. And I use the word extractive. It is extractive. And this is something, Nina, you and I were talking about, is the way in which this industry, while it's so beautiful and all of us like want to do good and want to provide healing, yet we're a part of something that, and I'll share this as a small manufacturer, every time I make a small batch, you know, there's a lot of testing and a lot of fees that go into a small quantity. Therefore, it is in my best economic interest to make as much as possible to get it lab tested one time in these, to kind of replicate these systems that are extractive to the, both like the people working, extractive to the land. How much cannabis does it take to make such a small little pot of medicine? And so I don't know, Nina, if you kind of want to share a little bit of like your experience of kind of this idea of this extractive nature that the regulations were kind of built on, that don't necessarily allow for craft or small companies to thrive.
Yeah, man, I'm getting goosebumps like going through this conversation. I think this is such a necessary conversation. It's so interesting because, as Arya had explained about just my own intro, I have so many different intersections, right? So I feel you, Dania, on like, the healing that your body needs to have after like being in a very like high impact militaristic type of training, right? And like how your body needed to find a homeostasis again, right? Because in theory, like we're supposed to be able to work out, right? And that's supposed to be helpful for our body and healthy for our body. But when it's done in a way that is like maximizing performance for the entertainment of other people, it loses its magic, right? It all of a sudden becomes something that it wasn't intended to be, right? In the same way with this plant, it is an organic substance. It grows from dirt. So if we are not taking care of the dirt, are we actually taking care of the plant, right? So if it is a grower that decides to maximize their performance, puts nutrients and other things into the dirt that takes away from its ability to grow things, like, and then renders that plot of dirt unmanageable, like what we're seeing or like ungrowable, like what we're seeing in our agricultural industries, right? Then is it doing what it was supposed to be doing anymore? Yes, we are being able to get a few harvests off of it, but then after that, you have to move on to another place, and it's just waste, right? So in thinking about our industry and also the regulations, are these regulations things that feed into a sustainable system? Or are the regulations supporting the extraction and the creation of waste that other people, that they're figuring other generations are going to have to clean up and manage anyways? Right? Which is,
so
yeah, go ahead.
So that's, I just read in the comments as you were talking, somebody was talking, I think it was Ramon, mentioned like this ecosystem. And, you know, we're only a few years in, everything still feels super brand new. There's so many different chains of this business, right? There's the farmer who's working on the land. There is a dispensary somewhere in a city. Someone has to manage that dispensary. There's the distributor, there's the manufacturer, and we are all a part of the ecosystem. And eco, I think one of the roots of the word eco is home. Mm-hmm. And how do we take care of this home system when the way that things are set up at the moment? And I think this is part of our work. This is definitely part of my work, which is to humanize this ecosystem that I'm a part of. So when I meet a buyer, I want to engage because I know that they're part of a system, right? Which is a dispensary with 4 walls. Well, the dispensary would be nothing if it didn't have something to put on their shelf. Mm. So there's this integral relationship at the core of every step of what we're doing. But right now, the way that, and I'm saying this generally because I know that there must be people on this who've been in the game for 10 years, who have the lifelong friendships and relationships to put their products on shelves, and they know their trusted friends. So like, I know it's possible because I've seen it, but there's so many barriers to entry at the moment because we don't see ourselves necessarily as an ecosystem of support. And so a buyer who is managing so many things and overwhelmed with the amount of emails they get and the, hi, I'm some new company, they don't have time, right? And so in what ways are we creating these systems to kind of weed out almost what I've been calling recently the Hollywood effect of cannabis, which is like have have your agent
To
contact my agent.
and
And it's like, or what if you just like met me for like 2 minutes? If that's all I want. I just want you to see my eyes. I want to see who you are. And then we can talk about building. And so right now, I think just because everything's so brand new, it's kind of like when you go into a liquor store, you have hundreds of options of alcohol. It would be weird if they only carried 2 types of beer, right? You'd be like, well, what do you mean? Like there's so many different palettes and flavors and things that people want.
Right.
And right now, there is, one of our barriers is that we're kind of everybody at every level of this ecosystem is so impacted by like regulations and rules and laws and essentially money, right? Because what's keeping this churning right now is like heart, blood, sweat, tears, and money. Is that there's a gap there. And like that gap is a gap in kind of the human connection. And I think the plant is looking at us like you're forgetting.
Because right, like this talk is about the remembrance, right? The remembrance of it, right? And it's interesting, like the loss of consciousness around a symbiotic relationship, a sacred relationship, and like an ecosystem, like a healthy ecosystem kind of relationship, because there are also unhealthy ecosystems, right? Is that like we have to remember that also money can be sacred, right? Like, because money is a representation of energy, and that like you wake up every day, and if you're exchanging your exchanging your energy for money, then that money coming back to you is sacred, right? So then at that point, it's still like, how do we choose to recycle it into the ecosystem? How does it actually help to heal and to create a homeostasis versus become extractive in making the ecosystem ill, right? And I think that we have because it's cannabis, we have like a marker right there, like watching the plant, learning how it's like grown, seeing what environments it loves, like especially because like we just got, I'm really excited to see this, but the terroir like approvals, right, for California, right? Like really being able to see how different strain types take to different terroirs, and for us to be able to see that at our next like cannabis cup. It's like, which terroir grows like the best, like sour diesel strain, or like the best velvet punch, like how's it, for us to be able to, again, become in relationship, with this plant in a way that like we are giving what we are also receiving. So something that I'm trying to do for Gift of Doja is that, one, I'm trying to work with as many growers as I can that grow in soil, and not just soil, but living soil. So that means that the growers consciously take care of their soil over time, and it like continuously is enriched soil, right? So trying to be conscious of it there. And then trying to take some of my proceeds and giving it to a program here in San Francisco called Hummingbird Farms. And their program is called Urban Compañeros. So they are training young folks how to be like urban farmers, essentially. They were able to fight for 6 acres of space in San Francisco, and with the goal to help to sequester carbons, right? Which is a lofty goal, and like they're constantly being under attack in the neighborhood, because they will like political attack, in the sense that they will fight against development, and like unless it has some green space in it, or unless it is actually in fact affordable for the working class families that are still in that neighborhood, right? And so it is kind of when I got into alignment with them, which are like dear friends of mine that I grew up with and actually taught me and helped to give me some of the understanding of how to have a sacred relationship with the world that I'm in. They told me, you might not be making friends in City Hall by supporting us, because we are not development friendly, but I was like, yeah, but you're soil friendly. And if we don't have soil to grow food in, and if we don't have plants to take up, you know, to actually generate new oxygen, then we're gonna die. So, you know, so like the development is secondary to the knowledge that we need to pass on. And in fighting for that, you know, like I feel like I'm at least weaving in the sacred philosophy in the business that I do intend to make some money in, you know? So there is a balance, you know, like we are in an industry, but does that industry, like you said, have to be extractive, or can it build a healthy ecosystem?
Thank you. Nina, I want to honor our time because I think we're about at our 30 minutes. And I wanted to put just a call out there, an invitation. I'm intuiting that if you were part of today's panels, conversations, if you just stopped in, that you're kind of part of this, like you probably agree with us for the most part on the idea that like cannabis is sacred, and that this is some really healing, powerful medicine that we've all been drawn to or around for one reason or another. And so my invitation is that, you know, I see us as for lack of a better word, like we are the army of love, and we are having to critique, figure out, and implement the solutions that are going to allow us to not just survive in this game, but to thrive in it. And part of the thriving might mean to have a radical imagination of like rewriting the rules and rethinking how we make business decisions and who we partner with. And so with that, I just wanted to offer an invitation, and I know Nina is with me on this, like if there's any way that we continue to have conversations beyond this moment today, I want to invite you to let us know who you are, where you're at, so that we can kind of continue to be in conversation. I see one of my sisters, Susanna from Sweet Relief, is with us today. And like, again, she's somebody who has offered me insight and support over time. And so kind of part of this army of love, cannabis love. So we're here, I'm here. I hope to be here for the long haul, people. So please support Ojo de la Sol topicals for your abuelos, for your tios, for your movement. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, everybody. And
thank you. Nina, last remarks?
Last remarks is just make time to forge your own sacred relationship with the plant and the space that you're in. Whatever it means for you is what it means for you. But I really do hope, and I really do I would really love to continue to help to hold space in order to forge that energy into the world. So thank you so much, and Hua and Meadow for always giving us a space and a really enriching time. So thank you guys.